I think that if 2023 is going to start off with a good year with, in this case, like an indie film like out of Exile, this is the way to start it off here, in my opinion. Because I said before, and I told Kyle Harris that this movie to me is essentially what it's going to sound kind of maybe naive for me to say this here, but that a lot of indie filmmakers wish they could make, if that makes any sense. Like, you know, if you have the money, limited amount of money, limited amount of time, and you want to make a good quality film, this would be the example of, like, if you there's no reason to make a shitty film. I talked about Rough Cut before. I was like, when you had no budget, virtually no time, and pretty much everything was spaced out. And I thought, if you can make that with nothing available at your within reach here, then there's no excuse of why there should be so many shitty films out there, or shitty shows for that matter, because these guys have set the standard. Like, you can do it at that level. And I mean that with every fiber of my body. So I'm really excited for you guys for this film to release, as I said before, but I'm also excited about the upcoming projects I mentioned before here. So with the anticipation of the film, you guys had the premiere last year, and I've kind of got the word of mouth from everybody that they pretty much had a good reaction to the film. But I guess what I could start off here in this case with you, Kyle, since this is actually the first time you and I are going to be speaking. I want to get your perspective on how you've gotten how you felt about the reaction, the anticipation to the film's release, and then people's reaction to the film at the premiere, and then what you are more or less kind of expecting. If you're confident in thinking that with what you guys have put together here, if people will react to it well. It may sound generic of a question, but I'm asking this question because I think this film does warrant this kind of a question for you guys to really bring that out, because it's very rare that I actually can say with the utmost confidence that the movie that I saw is going to be that good that I think everyone that will watch it will like it, if not more than I did. That's how confident I am about it. So if you want to start off, Kyle.
Yeah, I mean, so throughout the whole process, of course, everybody that's passionate about filmmaking, I mean, we're all ready to rock and stuff. Just to build up the whole pre-production process. The feels in the tummy are already there, and next thing you know, you're investing in the choreography, and it's like, man, this is badass. Everybody's getting more amped up. A couple more crew members come on, they're recording, doing their thing. We already knew it was cool. The passion behind it was there. The brotherhood was there. I mean, just the conversations in parking lots were strictly motivated towards just, hey, we did this today. How can we make this more badass tomorrow? And that's just the tiny little things that we are doing, the tiny little things that we are working on. And leading up to day one and all that of shooting, I mean, we had Peter Green on board, we had Ryan Merriman on board, and it was almost expectations just with the guys we were working with, like Kyle, who's I think he's at Martin Scorsese's type potential level. He is amazing. Adam in particular, so handsome. I mean, the ladies love him. The fellas love him. Moms love him. Everybody loves him. He bleeds excellence on screen in a very unique way. And just me solely, I had the ultimate feels in my tummy leading up to everything, and I couldn't really believe it at the time. Day one comes, everybody's on board. Expectations were never high, really, at the same time. It's just because, just naturally, we were all killing it. We were all coming into it prepared, ready. Nobody seemed nervous, which was crazy. Even working with Peter Green day one, I mean, he is a force physically when he enters a room. And I even thought Adam would kind of tuck her down a little bit, seeing him the first time. And no, Adam was ready. There was just never a single moment of doubt. And as you work through Adam, we had 28 production days. Is that right?
Man, don't catch me lying.
Yeah.
that sounds about right.
We'll say roughly 28 production days. Fun every moment along the way. There was never a single day when it's all said and done where we go back, I feel, and it's like, damn it, I wish we did this. damn it, I wish we did this. And each and every filmmaker involved, the actor, all that, we were all the type of guys to always regret a single minute or moment missed. I didn't feel that the entire time. We captured it all together. And then so we make it to this initial premiere, get to see it for the first time. I think that's where everything just kind of popped. The reviews, the applauds and things like that. And at the time, I don't think we were tied to Saban anything. And just that right there, it's like, wow, this is exciting. Everybody in Oklahoma, they're gonna, yeah, we can make another Oklahoma movie, make it a little bit bigger. And that's all we needed, all we needed to keep going. And Saban gets attached. Apple, Paramount, all that. Present day, it's about to come out January 20th. We're all like friends with Peter Green now, and just things you kind of speed up. All this stuff happened in between. And the expectations were never there for like the big, glorious premiere, anything like that. It just happened. And bear with me if I'm rambling off topic of your question or anything like that.
Go ahead.
Because I'm also still at that point of realization, like, man, we made something really cool. I just found out we actually have a premiere on the 20th in New York, New York. Do you know that, Adam?
I did not.
Yeah, I don't know who knows about it, but I accidentally found that on the internet. Yeah, right before this, which I've never been to New York. But I think that's pretty cool that there's it's showing in theaters in New York, New York. Yeah, it's getting out there. Articles are coming out. But at the end of the day, it is all strictly motivation to make the next one bigger and badder. And we all know what we can bring if we do it again. So naturally, I think it's going with the budget in particular, more people allocating their money, knowing bodies of work, things like that.
Yeah.
Money does play a side into things, but knowing what we can do at a small amount, I'm just excited what we could do this amount. And so I guess we'll see over the next couple months. But yeah, if anything, I have very high expectations of Kyle Harris. I want to see what he brings with this with a bigger budget, because he's got a pretty high ceiling.
Yeah, I agree too.
Yeah.
Well, so then, when you saw the movie for the first, because I'm not sure if you were privy to getting chances to see various cuts of the film prior to the final cut, but if you had, when you saw the movie, if you saw it for the first time in one of the rougher cuts, if you will, that did you feel right away that? I mean, maybe it's a fair question. Did you feel like, okay, this is starting to become really good, and I can see the potential with how it's going to look in the final cut, or did you know right away that what I've seen so far up to this point looks fantastic, and I'm sure for a fact that with the final cut it's going to be far superior than what I just saw here, if that makes any sense.
Hell yes. First cut, which was very, very rough.
What was the initial runtime? Do you recall?
Wasn't it like 2 hours, 14 minutes?
Dude, numbers escape me. I have no idea.
I want to say it was over that. It was over that 2 hour.
2 hour mark.
Because
it was thick. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just the indie bro moments between Adam and I's characters. Because Harris would let us ramble and stuff. We had some pretty long ass scenes, and they still went along with the script, and original parts of the script that were later cut. But yeah, it was pretty long. But that first cut, even with those moments reduced and things like that, throughout the process, kept getting cooler, and then boom, badass. So.
Well, what about for you, Adam? Though, again, the same question for you. Were you privy to the rough cuts before the final cut? And when you saw it, did you have more or less kind of the same reaction, or did you have a slightly different reaction to what Kyle here had?
And the journey on this one was pretty interesting. I mean, like the journey, like all the way through it. You know, when you get to this, like at this level, whenever they start bringing names in, The name will come in, the talent will come in for like a couple of days. They're not there before, they're not there after. They show up, they do their thing, they deliver. Everybody delivered, when they came in. And so you had Haley McFarland, who's phenomenal.
Yeah.
She played my daughter, or Van Quattro, of course, Merriman and Peter and Danny Boy and Jake the Snake and all. Like they came in and killed it. But like, part of what made this one so beautiful for me was the building of the relationships of the people that were there every day. So that's the beauty of that. Like, when you think, okay, would I rather be this or that? Would I rather get paid a lot of money and come in for like one day and then fly out and, hey, let me know how the movie turns out? I have no idea. I just, I read the script once, or I just focused on the parts that I'm in. Whenever we're sort of woven through the whole movie and we're there the whole time, we're not the names, but we get to experience the journey of the movie in a completely different way. So like, when Kyle's doing the rewrites and we're doing the readings and we're outside, out at my house at 3 a.m, having push-up contests and trying to out macho each other. And like, as silly as it sounds, like that stuff plays like it's real, And so I didn't know I'd met Kyle essentially in pre-production for this project. I mean, we shot Prone to Violence, which was sort of a, hey, let's kind of see how these guys work on camera. Let's see what they look like, Robin Banks. Kyle had his basic idea with that short 48-hour film. But then it kind of became this. And so the experience of it, like I knew what I was seeing as sort of when you're kind of playing a lead in a character in a film like this, you don't necessarily say a lot. A lot of times you're experiencing the world around you. You're experiencing all these different types of characters. And everybody I just mentioned, plus Wilson Navas, plus Will Wilson, plus Kyle Pennington, all the people that are in the movie, and they all come into the scenes, and then they're all providing something different. I was getting to see all these performances, and I was getting to live with them in a way that it was like, these people are killing it. Like this is amazing. And I would put Kyle Henry at the top of that list. I mean, like, in terms of energy on camera, in terms of believability, in terms of really, really, really pushing me, you get actors like Wilson Navas, who plays like my best friend in the film, and he's tremendous. He's very easy. His charisma is very, very believable and quiet in the film. As a human being, the guy's like, I don't know, he's like New Orleans as a person. But like in the movie, it's a totally different vibe. Henry made me uncomfortable in just about every scene we were in. And that kind of energy and electricity, where you're kind of like, there's a certain amount of trust that's required. But then also there's like, every take was kind of like, well, where are we going to go with this one? Where is this one going to organically gravitate towards? And that requires just a tremendous amount of endurance. And as much as I'd like to speak poorly of him, Kyle Henry, just, you watch the film and you'll see it. You'll see it, and he's, see y'all. My kids are going to a basketball game. Sorry about that.
No worries.
But like it makes every take feels alive. And it feels it's very challenging in like the best way possible. That's got like, I don't know. I've always sort of compared filmmaking to athletics, and I would certainly put this film in that sort of descriptive path, because, when you play with people who are better than you are, or people who really push you, you become a better player. And I think everybody just really was so intent on trying to express Kyle's story, that we were all pushing each other. And so, I mean, for me, I'm kind of a melancholy person. By the time it gets to a premiere, I'm already sort of, cutting myself in the bathroom about it. But like the experience of making it, I felt like we were really making something special.
Well, so let me ask you guys about this here, because I actually I mean, I was aware that Kyle Harris had done several short films beforehand, but I actually didn't get a chance to see any of them except for a documentary he had done. I forgot the Water Gap, I think is what it was. The only thing I saw that he'd done prior to Out of Exile. But after my conversation with him, I was able to see that short film Prone to Violence. And this is before I knew about the origins of what Out of Exile came out of it. But then when I saw Prone to Violence, I was like, oh, this is basically the basis for Out of Exile.
Right.
So, and then of course I saw, a lot of familiar faces, everyone virtually in that film are in Out of Exile, more or less playing the same characters for the most part. But when you guys had talked to Kyle Harris about this, about Out of Exile, was the conversation after you guys did that, because this coronavirus, for anyone who doesn't know, it was basically a 48-hour
I love you too.
It was a 48-hour film, sorry, 48-hour film production that you guys were doing. No worries, it's all good. That you guys were doing to make this film and then get it out to a festival. But once you guys had shot that short film, did Kyle Harris come out to you guys and say, hey, by the way, I think I may want to expand on this story to make into a feature-length film? Or did it just kind of come out once the film had been released at the festival, and then maybe somewhere along the ways you guys had conversed and thought this looks like it'd be a potential feature-length film if we have a chance to make this happen? Like, want to know what that origin was for all of you guys to get that more or less ball rolling for you.
Well, like I'd hate to let actual facts get in the way of my own imagined history, but I believe the way that it worked, as I recall, was the 48 that's spontaneous. I mean, you have to come up with stuff on the fly. And when we made it, it was kind of like he had kind of been gearing up to some sort of a crime type film with me and Henry and I. And so then it was kind of a natural thing, because I don't recall Prone to Violence going on the festival circuit at all. I think it played at the 48, and it was Kyle Harris. He's a fairly complicated human being. He is ambitious like a shark, and he is always moving. So I don't even know. I don't know at this point in his career how much he'd even be going to festivals outside of Dead Center or South by, or one of those larger ones. So I think it was pretty immediate. I think he liked the connection with that Henry and I had, and then we had a very easy sort of understanding of each other. And I think, and because I met Henry on Prone to Violence that night before I showed up at his house and spent the night. He was very accommodating, very warm, very cuddly.
After a few beers, right?
We actually met that night, and then we were off and running. I think Kyle had an idea he wanted to try to develop something fairly quickly after that. Okay.
What about from your experience, Kyle, about the more or less the introduction about getting this short film turned into a feature length? Was it some along the lines with what Adam was just saying, or do you have something slightly more different from what you can recall?
It was pretty much similar to Adam's. I'm the younger brother of the friend group and all that of these filmmakers. Yeah, so I was always a little bit behind on getting the invites to the little meetings and stuff leading up. Let me speed back a little bit. A woman broke my heart back in 2018, and I wasn't making any movies, anything like that. And I'm scrolling, and Adam pops up on Facebook, and I'm like, I reach out to Adam, and at this time he might as well have been Brad Pitt. I haven't done anything. Everybody, I've heard about Adam. I messaged him on Facebook and yada yada. Got told we look alike, yada yada. We should play brothers sometime. And this was 2018, 2017, about that time. We should play brothers sometime. I didn't expect him to message back anything. He did. Big ass paragraph, because that's Adam.
Yeah, I know.
So leading up to next thing you know, I think a year later, Prone to Violence is happening, and Adam's coming over for a sleepover for the first night. I meet him. I think I was more in shock at working with Adam and stuff, and finding out how just humble he is. He made me more confident working, because at the time, I mean, I hadn't worked with the passionate indie type of filmmakers yet. I've worked with Lionsgate before, things like that, but that was more of a child like robot film type thing. It wasn't my acting style, so I wasn't really comfortable yet going into the indie crime dramas or anything. Adam, day one, really brought me down to earth and kind of got me settled in. The short film itself, it was just a natural, organic thing amongst everybody there involved. Mainly Adam, Kyle, Kawika Harris, and I. We just had a pretty unique thing right off the bat. First time ever working together. And just the experience of that short film, seeing the potential from it, it's like, oh, sweet, let's make another short film. But no, they're ready to go big. And by, I believe, 4 months later, these guys already had a couple meetings, I think at like Buffalo Wild Wings or something. But I want to say in December, about 4 months later, we got that first draft of Prone, and it's like, wow, we're going. And so it was pretty exciting. Yeah.
What, so now when you guys are working with Kyle Harris in this case here for Prone of Violence, and that experience working with him on the set for that 48-hour period of time, because it was for that 40th festival project you guys were doing, going from that and then working with him on Out of Exile, more or less more time, more money, a little more resources, of course. Have you guys noticed any difference with him as opposed from when you guys had worked with him on Prone of Violence and then jumping into Out of Exile, that you felt like, I guess the best way I could ask is that if you noticed that something had changed with his approach, where you realized that, okay, he's gotten better, or more or less same guy, but clearly he's very prepared of what he wants to accomplish here, and having everyone here on board knows that we're all going to be contributing to the best of our ability. So I'm curious to see what your thought process was in working with Kyle Harris from Prone of Violence and Out of Exile. Any changes, and if there were, what those changes were that you've noticed from the previous production to this one?
Well, I mean, it's hard to compare. It's hard to compare anybody from a 48-hour video race to like doing it like with intent and purpose and time and planning. 48 is like the world's coolest college project. You know what I mean? Okay. And it's a great way to bond. It's a great way to just like sort of shotgun approach filmmaking, at least in my experience. But it's not I certainly wouldn't necessarily want to be judged by my acting on 48. You know what I mean? That said, he's the same guy. I mean, Kyle, I think Kyle probably loves movies more than anybody I know. Like he loves movies. Like I'm romantic about movies. I romantically love movies, but like Kyle like stalks them and like waits outside their house. Movies.
Perfect way to say it.
Huh?
A perfect way to say
it. He really like he really is honed in on that. And I mean he's the kind of guy as a director that he's 3 steps ahead of everybody on the set. And that's if everybody on the set's moving. And like he just really knows what he wants. I think he's very he's very focused, I guess. So I can't really speak to growth. I mean, like I think it's kind of more like give this guy some room and see what he can do. I think as a writer, he's got a lot of interests. A lot of the interests that I have in story. I think a lot of the interests that Kyle Henry has in story. I mean, like he does cover those. I mean, there's a lot of there's a lot of stories that he's very focused on in terms of perhaps manhood or duty or broken homes and redemption and those kinds of things that are compelling when you're a father or a son. And he's very interested in those. I mean, like, there's nuances that he put into this film. I would say I'm transitioning to talk about him as a writer. I hope that's okay.
That's fine.
But you can look at this genre, and see, you jump on YouTube and you'll get every Call of Duty badass critiquing the trailer or having their ideas about, for example, the way I'm holding a gun, amazingly. But like, a lot of people say, oh, this is just like Heat, or this is just like Den of Thieves, or this is just like whatever. I mean, a lot of the genre has expectations. If I'm watching a horror genre and there's a cabin in the woods, I have an idea what's going to happen. What I'm hoping is that the storyteller is giving me an entertaining way of getting there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to be surprised when somebody ends up dead. Like, okay, yeah, I'm watching a horror film and they're in a cabin in the woods and there's some crazy redneck out there doing, whatever. Same with heist films or robbery films or crime films. Usually there's some aspect of some redemptive quality to it. A lot of times there's questions about loyalty and honor and personal sacrifice and what those things mean. So you can look at, like, say, The Town or Out of the Furnace or Den of Thieves or any of the films I've mentioned and see similarities. Hell or High Water. I've never seen that one, but I've heard that as well.
Yeah, it's a very good film.
And so, yeah, you can say, oh, okay, so this is a crime movie about brothers. But yeah, it is. But what the specificity that he put into the writing, and then the way that he allowed us to make the characters as authentic as possible. And, Henry's a perfect example of that. Like, Henry's arc in the film is well earned. It's hard earned.
Yeah.
And it doesn't feel okay, with brothers. I mean, you go back to the Bible, Cain and Abel, brothers. Right. One of them goes bad, one of them does good. This is from the beginning in terms of that. So but he allows there to be some real uniqueness in terms of the authenticity and the individuality of the characters, and then he's very supportive of the actors in trying to get there. So I think whenever you watch Kyle Henry, yes, he's explosive the way that other brothers and other films might be explosive, but there's a real humanity to what he's doing and a real hurt in his eyes and a real anger. And it's all feels very well earned and well deserved. And so that speaks, I think, not only to Kyle Henry's performance or some of the performances in the film, Haley McFarland's performance, Van Quatter's performance, but it also speaks to the fantastic writing. Kyle is a tremendous writer.
What about for you, Kyle? Do you have any? Do you share the same sentiments that Adam is bringing up here about your experiences with Kyle Harris about the film production, or is it more or less slightly different from your experience here?
Adam's got it pretty spot on.
Okay.
From the first film I've worked on him with, Prone to Violence, he took everything he could to make it the best it could be, and he held himself back without overdoing it. Did the same thing with Out of Exile. He progressed, knew he could get this, and that, and he utilized those things, and no change whatsoever. With the exception of I think he's really starting to utilize the firepower he's being given, the ammunition he's being given, and he knows where to put those bullets. And the ambition keeps getting higher and higher and higher, And but he's still the same guy, just as passionate. But instead of using a grenade in a film, well, now Kyle's going to use a nuke. That's where he's going, and it's a really badass thing. It's he'll make a small explosion very dramatic, just as he'll make a big explosion very dramatic. But he's getting those tools and those resources to make his stories bigger and bigger and bigger. And he's getting his name out there, his body of work out there, and now his actors, his actresses, their talents, their skill sets, just like how he allowed Adam and I to kind of ramble at times and bring what we could to the film. Well, now he's gonna push us off one at some point because he can get Leo one day, and it's like his ambition's up there, but he's working towards it. And if anything, the only change I've seen is just his drive is even higher than it was, and that's a pretty damn beautiful thing. And yeah, I wish the best for him.
Well, I mean, he's a bigger prick now. Like
Yeah.
a little bit of success has really made him unbearable. But
Yeah.
It was difficult for me to book an interview with him. Yeah, I'll
yeah, yeah.
we're just kidding, Kyle. But okay, well, so I'm gonna bring something up real quick about the film in itself, because we're not gonna get any spoilers, because I think this is one of those films where I would prefer not to reveal a lot about the movie, because so I'm kind of jumping ahead here, but just to kind of get to my point here. But when it came to the ending, that was the one thing that blew me away about the film. You know, I enjoyed the film all the way through, but the ending was really more or less like the icing on the cake, if you will. But it was a bittersweet type of ending, if that makes any sense. But what I wanted to highlight first here, before we can kind of sort of talk about the ending here, because I definitely want to get you guys' perspective on that. But there's one pivotal moment in the film where, for anyone who hasn't seen the film yet, you know, essentially, Adam, your character is just coming out for prison term, and goes back to his old crew to do one last job to get paid a lot of money and be able to go off and retire, if you will. But along the way, he comes across his daughter, who he finds out is in an abusive relationship. So along the way, discovering who the boyfriend is and knowing where he's at, you get your brother, Kyle, to more or less, despite you guys having some issues prior to that moment of, you know, talking about, hey, do me a favor, let's go talk to this guy or beat the shit out of him, whatever it was. Forgot the exact word, but something along those lines. That to me was something that I felt like is, if anyone who's ever had seen something of that sort before, I think that was one of the things that really affected me the most, apart from the ending, because it was something that I always felt like if someone had seen what your character saw, Adam, where a loved one is abused and you have the ability to do something about it, you would take up on that chance. And when you have other people to support you, despite the fact that you guys are at odds with one another, and there's that one factor you guys say, we're looking for each other despite our differences, it's kind of hard for me to kind of to explain what I'm saying, because I know you guys know what I'm talking about. For anyone who's listening, is without providing a lot of context, but when you see the movie, you'll understand what I mean by that. But when it comes to that moment, that to me was kind of more or less, I figured out that's what the film is kind of in a nutshell is about, because there's clearly friction between everybody, but there's still underlying love, unconditional love that's still out there that is kind of suppressed. But when it comes out, that's where it comes out, when there's trauma that's involved that brings that out of them. And then you have the differences on how far each of these characters will take when it comes to the violence that is thrown at this one person. And then you get to see where the distinct differences are between the two characters. And then, you know, and I will be honest too, when I saw that scene, the first thing I thought of right away was, oh, this is very reminiscent of The Town, very close to that scene that in the movie, for anyone who haven't seen it. But I was curious about when you guys had read the script and then talked about the character arcs along the way. For me, that was like one of the defining moments of that movie, where I felt like, for me personally, where I truly did connect with the story, because I understand the underlying well, what's the best way to put it? I felt like I understand what the story was about when it came to the side plot, if you will. I'm not sure if that's the best way to explain it, because I'm kind of thinking and talking at the same time, but I hope you understand what I mean by that. But for you guys, when you guys were reading the script, shooting it, and then conversing with one another about how you felt like would be appropriate to be able to, in some ways, get your perspective on how to develop the character, what was that one particular part of the film that you felt like that, okay, I get where we're going with this story, because I understand now my character's motivation? Maybe with conversation from Kyle Harris, you maybe have more insight, but I'm wondering if going through the production, if you felt like there's anything in particular that stuck out that made you realize that this is what my character is about at the end of the day, and this is where I understand them better than anybody, even better than Kyle Harris, if that makes any sense.
You know, well, speaking on that scene, I would like to say a couple of things about that scene, if I could.
Yeah.
Because that was a pivotal scene for me when I read the script.
Okay.
And when I first read it, it felt very Town. That cool scene in the town. Yeah. Like if you're gonna like, hey, kind of borrow something or homage something, or you know, whatever. Like that's a really cool scene. That's a real tough guy scene.
Right.
The way that it's handled in our film, though, is very different. I love the town, so this is not a critique of the town at all. I love it. I'm a big Ben Affleck fan, but like whenever it happens in our film, there's a change in both of our characters in that moment, and it's a revelation of who these guys truly are. It's not just loyal, badass dudes going to take care of business. There's a switch. There's a transformation that happens between the two of us. And in terms of who we are all the way up leading to that point where I'm the calm one and Henry is the wild, Wes is the wild card, Gabe's the stoic. And then when that moment hits and you see this different kind of rage in Gabe, then you see this change in Wes. The characters are responding. Gabe is responding to the scenario. Wes is responding to Gabe. And then we have a scene that follows where we're in the car, and it kind of resets this brotherhood. That sets Wes off to complete his arc. That night dooms Gabe to whatever he has coming for him. Yeah. So that scene, as opposed to just being two badass guys going to handle some ugliness, actually means so much more in the way that the violence is used. And a couple of things. That was one of the only nights I think that Kyle Harris and I were frustrated at each other because I wanted to be even more violent than it was. Like if, let's say there are 5 punches in that particular scene, I wanted there to be 20. I wanted it to be so uncomfortable that the audience didn't know how the audience was afraid of Gabe. And that was a very, very intense scene. The other thing is that I believe the scene in the car afterwards, we're driving around, and I think it might have been Henry. It was you, I'm sure. I think maybe you improvised some stuff, and I think you had said, "Hey, let's pull over here," because we were just kind of feeling the scene out, and that's the beauty of working with people who truly love their characters. Kyle, I could have spoken with Kyle Henry. In fact, he's still as Superboy in my phone because that's what they call him in the movie. Superboy and I could have talked every day about the characters and why they were doing what they were doing. And I know you had some significant input on that scene after when we were driving around. So that scene for me was big. When people ask me, like, in terms of characters, or how you connect to characters and so forth, a lot of times I just try to find one thing that I'm like, okay, I can understand from this point of view. I know what it's like to have my heart broken, or I know what it's like to, get punched in the face, or I know what it's like, whatever. In this case, I have a daughter, and I know what I'd do if somebody ever hurt her. And so for me, that was I did never rob a bank. I don't steal anything. I'm a good Church of Christ boy, man. I can't even take the Lord's name in vain. But like, if somebody hurt my daughter, I know what I think I'm probably capable of some pretty heinous things. So that scene for me really did nab me. But the whole script's fantastic. I spoke for too long. I apologize. Henry,
no. That's perfectly fine. What about for you, Kyle? What's same question to you. Anything that would have spoke out to you, made you realize that I get this character more in this case than, let's say, Kyle Harris?
It was pretty much that segment, and then the 15 minutes prior leading up to it. First getting the script, read through it, yada yada, and then we get to that big trailer fight scene between Adam and I, where we just come at each other, and my character truly gets his moment to be vulnerable in his own way, screaming his thoughts at his immovable mountain of a brother. And you kind of see a moment of they got things out in their way, but there was no answer to the fight or the question that was initially there. Just things got said, and carrying on to where he does reach out for my help. Putting those pieces together really made me understand who I was in this film, who I was for him in this film, what I needed to do for him in this film. it's a beautiful thing being a supporting character, and it's especially, I found it very beautiful to be a supporting character for a more stoic and quiet Gabriel Russell, played beautifully by Adam. How can I keep him at his normal character dynamics, if that makes sense? How do I not overdo it? How do I add excitement, authenticity with my character's personality? What does he want from me in this moment? Well, I found it in both those scenes, or that 15-20 minute segment. And I'm a father myself, and it was pretty cool. And it especially helped our brotherhood aspect. Because once we really talked about that, all those punches you threw and stuff. And because if something happened to my own little girl, I would need somebody to pull me back. It doesn't matter. I'm not the most churchy guy in the world or anything. I cuss like a sailor. I cuss too much. I think I'm actually the reason the film is rated R.
You are.
For real though.
I never thought of it. I think you're right.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I don't know how bad this glare is right now.
It's okay. No worries.
Bad, but anyway, I got off topic of where I was going with that, and this glare is really pissing me off. Anyway,
You were talking about having a daughter.
Oh yeah. I would need somebody to pull. Well, just so, I mean, Adam and I just had, wasn't the topic of this. It wasn't about the dialogue, what was going on, but just bonding over. I'd punch. I would knock the fuck out. I'd break every teeth. Sorry for the F word. I'd knock out every teeth of a dude. Just us having that understanding bled onto the scene itself, without even rehearsing it. We just going into it with the same mindset. Yeah, and then eventually it led over to whenever we do pull off the road, which was our final day of shooting, actually. And yeah, it was beautiful because the pulling off the road thing, I really found that was where Adam and I, even though it was so subtle, wasn't a lot of dialogue, very quiet, very intimate, but that's where I feel our characters came together. It was a beautiful, I rarely walk off a production feeling satisfied, but whatever we did, whatever we found understanding with throughout the process, it all came together that last day shooting, pulling off the road and stuff. And yeah, I loved it.
Yeah.
So here's what I want to ask you guys real quickly about the production here, because Adam, you pointed out that you got fresh with Kyle Harris about the amount of violence you want to implement in that one specific scene. So this is kind of the question that I was actually wanted to get into here, but since you brought that up, I figured I'd just ask it now. So I was wondering about any sort of differences you guys would have. In this case for you, Adam, you talked about the amount of violence that you would like to have in that one scene that I was referring to earlier, that maybe when you read the script, you thought, this is good. Well, I'm good with this. And then as the production started to go through, you realize that, I want to change something here because I felt like this will work better for the scene. In this case, you talk about the amount of punches you want to throw because you felt it was that was necessary for the character because it is justified for him to do so. Apart from that, or maybe if you want to delve into that as being maybe the only thing that could have been that where the differences had come in. And this goes for you too, Kyle, that if there's anything that you guys had come to realize that something may change along the way, that you realize that I thought this was going to work and it is going to work, but I think this could be better. But then maybe Kyle Harris thought, no, we're sticking with this instead. And then how you guys came to either come to the middle of the road, or maybe because he's the head of the ship, you realize that, okay, I gotta go by what the captain wants, and it is what it is. So curious to see how you guys handle any sort of differences you would come along during that production.
Man, like you can get on some movie sets, and I'm talking about predominantly indie because that's what I am. And if you get a director and they're treating you like a really like exhausted parent, as in you ask them a question and like, because I said so.
Yeah.
Then that's not good. That's not to the betterment of the film, right? Kyle's not that way. as a director. And I mean, again, I do feel the need to talk bad about him just because I don't want him to get a big head about it. But as a director, he loves his stories, and he loves his characters. But I think he also does develop a genuine love for his actors. I mean, he's very gracious in that way on set. So he wants to know what you think about things. He's always fielding questions. He's never too tired to talk about it. He always has an answer. And if you've got something that's competing, I mean, because Kyle Henry, god dang, I mean, this guy's studying the script, coming up with ideas, throwing out opportunities, throwing out improvisations, throwing out what about this is, because he cares. I mean, that's the idea. Is nobody's like, I want to go in here and just run the production over 5 hours every day. It's really, really, really wanting to make it as good as it can be. And so Kyle Harris, he either listens to ideas and says, okay, cool. Like, I want it to be real to you. If that's what you need to do, then rock and roll, go do it. Or he'll have a justifiable sort of accommodation as to why not. And then you're like, okay. I mean, because at the end of the day, yeah, he is the captain. I mean, like, whatever he says at the end of the day, I mean, clearly at the end of that scene, there's not 400 punches. I wanted 400 punches. And but also that's at least in my experiences directing, I hope that wasn't taken as disrespect, that merely passion on behalf of his actor on that particular scene.
Right.
Because I really, really cared. I really, really cared what happened. It wasn't out of some sort of, fake tough guy thing. It was like really wanting this character to turn a corner. Kyle was adamant that he didn't. And at the end of the day, I can't argue for that kind of restraint, and that's really what it was on his part, because I'm sure most of us would have liked to see that guy get punched a few more times. Yeah. But Kyle had a reason for what he did. And like, I have a lot of trust for him on a set. There's that whole thing about you don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. Like, I don't ever have to worry about that. I'm kind of a dipshit, but like, it's nice to be on a set where you're in good hands, whether it's with your coworkers or with your director or with the producers, that they know what they're doing. And Kyle knows what he's doing, man.
What about for you, Kyle, about the question I just happened to ask here for Adam? Did you have anything that you felt there was you had a differences in opinion on, that you were really adamant about wanting to change, or slightly go a different direction that may have not been on Kyle Harris's perspective on how he wanted to go about with the scene? Did you have anything like that comes to mind here, or were you pretty much on board with whatever needed to be done? You were just cooperating all the way through?
I was on board. I'd say 100% with everything. In regards to changing anything, tweaking anything, Kyle gave me the opportunity to let my character be who he was, and that was erratic. So if there was anything that was changed, I can't really remember, or anything I was passionate about. Our communication and understanding, and his ability to adapt storytelling or whatever his directing style, he went along with it. If I improv'd into a good direction, he cut it short. If I was taking it too far, that type of thing, I can't really say. I loved it top to bottom. He let me be. We had our moments. We went with extra moments. So no, I mean, there's not a single thing I would have changed. So, and if I did, that was because he allowed me to add a line or two or something like that would possibly change a dynamic or just a moment. It was cool.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can work sometimes with directors and they treat you like puppets. Mm-hmm. Like they're doing line readings, which is like the worst ever, or they're telling you.
Why is that for you? Worst ever for line readings? Why is that for you?
Oh, I hate it. Are
you talking about cold reads?
Huh?
Or table read? Are you talking about table reads?
No, table reads I love. They're probably my favorite part of the project. Line reading is like if you're on the set and you deliver it, and the director's like, no, don't say it like that. Say it exactly like I'm saying it. And then they say it.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's the idea
Okay.
that they're like, you're not giving any sort of voice to your own character. You're just a puppet.
Right. Okay. I understand now.
It's only happened to me maybe once or twice. But like, Kyle has a lot of, Kyle, passion requires passion. You know what I mean? You don't hear of a lot of couples where like one half of them is passionate.
Yeah.
It's both of them. And
Right.
Kyle Harris, I think, is so in love with it, and he wants everybody else to feel the same. And he wants you to love your character. I think that. I think he wants you to like really want to come in with ideas. I think he really wants to hear them. Now you've got to sort of shepherd that in a way so it's manageable, so that it's not complete chaos with everybody writing their own story. But I think in terms of, you know, his primary characters and following the sort of the spine of the story, he's very interested in hearing what you have to say, and he's very interested about people caring. Like, one thing he also does, I will pivot here real quick, is his the way that he likes to try to bring people together in pre-production. Like for this film, we did a ton of training. Kyle mentioned that earlier.
Yeah.
We did a ton of arms training and practice robbing and cars and shooting and gun safety and gun technique and all this stuff with Matt Moulton and Tyson at Range 405. They were fantastic trainers. But like, that's also bonding that Kyle was very adamant about, wanting Henry and myself, and then Wilson Navas, who I wish was here with us right now. We didn't know each other. And it's kind of like Reservoir Dogs. You got a bunch of dudes kind of standing around trying to figure out who's the toughest, or who's the coolest, or who's who's the real star of the movie. And it brought the three of us together in a very, very special way.
So, as far as the production is concerned, because it sounds like to me, it almost seems like it's pretty universal across the board with everybody, that the experience in making the film was quite positive. But not to say that I don't believe, because I do believe you, but was there anything in particular about making the film that, if you look back at it now, or maybe you look back at it then and thought, I hate doing this, or maybe now you realize that because you went through that, it was actually for the better, or maybe flipped around. Once you have gone through the motions, you look back on it, you realize that, okay, I hated doing this during the production, but it was a necessary evil. So we had to go through it for us to get the set scene done, or whatever the case may be. So I'm wondering if you had any sort of experiences on a set that made you realize that may have pushed your limits, and that those limits had more or less worn you out.
Can I go first, Adam?
Yeah, I think you better.
Yeah. So I would say about 4 years prior to shooting Out of Exile, I was a pack-a-day smoker, sometimes 2 pack-a-day smoker. I was also hardcore into fitness at the same time. It was super weird. It was very weird. I was just in a weird point in my life, you know. Anyway, about a year before shooting Out of Exile, 1.5 years, I made the healthy, life-changing decisions and stuff. I quit smoking after all those years. I stopped working out. I stopped caring about a certain look. I found a certain sense of security in myself. I was very happy. Going into this character, they didn't ask me to smoke, anything like that. They asked if I wanted fake cigarettes. Well, I was smoking, next thing you know, a pack of American Spirits a day for this character. My head was shaved, and then I lost 23 pounds for the role. And I just found myself really gross. I couldn't figure out physically what was throwing me off, because I knew I was in character, but throughout the production, I did not feel strong, not good looking, but it was more on like how I used to think of myself visually. But I didn't feel strong for my daughters. I felt weak. was a smoker again, shaved head. I was just kind of one look for a while, and no regrets whatsoever. But that was when it's all said and done, the tics that I brought to the character stuck with me for a while. I didn't really have a character or the opportunity to dive into another one as passionately as I did with Wesley for a good minute, because also my head was shaved. My eyes were very sunken in from the role. I kind of looked Nazi-ish in a way, and I didn't believe myself castable for anything. So it did wear me out. Still find myself saying the dialogue here and there. It's very, very weird. But it's a love-hate thing that I would do again in a heartbeat, you know? Yeah.
Well, what about for you, Adam? Anything in particular that sticks out for you at this very moment?
Man, I really don't. Like, I love to talk shit. But like, it was really like, what do you want out of a filmmaking experience? You know, outside of making a ton of money, which that's not why you do it. You know, right. Here, it was everything you could want. I got to work with Danny. I'm a huge House of Pain fan. Yeah, an insanely huge House of Pain fan. Getting to work with Danny Boy O'Connor, come on, that's bucket list to me. I mean, that's enormous. I mean, I've got a Phoenix tattoo from the third album. That's how fanboy I am.
What did he say when he saw it? Did you show it to him?
Yeah, I showed it to him. He was like, "That's cool, man." Because two of my oldest friends, man, my brothers, we all three got them because we were all like, you know, House of Pain, like Irish Mafia in Dale, Oklahoma, for like, yeah. He was very gracious, very kind. Hanging with Peter Green. Peter Green, by the way, loves our boy Kyle Henry. Just thinks he's the next. I mean, he's just like such belief in his capacity and potential as an actor. It was kind of beautiful. I was a little bit jealous, I won't lie. Just in love. He loved with Kyle Henry. It was beautiful. But like, Pulp Fiction is a seminal film. It's genuinely one of those movies that, like, to me was sort of a BC AD scenario where, like, there's a couple of movies in my life where I was who I was before I saw that, and then there's who I was after. Pulp Fiction is one of those movies. So in terms of those names, being able to work with them, how amazing. But then also the grit and authenticity of working with people, friends, strangers that become friends that become family. My boy Henry here, Kyle Harris, Wilson, Will Wilson, all everybody, you know. There's the beauty of that. There's the beauty of getting out there and sweating and working with family and, you know, working your heart out and just leaving it all on the floor, man. Like that's such an amazing reward. And so as much as I would like to talk shit, I got nothing on this one. This was a beautiful experience.
Okay,
well,
so
you got a sexy shirtless shower scene that everybody.
Well, it's funny. That was literally my next question. Honestly, that really was, because I was going to ask about the because you, Kyle, you kind of talked about with your experiences on the love-hate relationship aspect of the film, milking process for yourself, where you got back to smoking again. You know, you shaved look, lost some weight, and pretty much. It's obviously from when you're telling me that it's a lot of that still stuck with you, despite the fact that the film was shot over 2 years ago at this point. It was shot in 2020. You guys had some. I think you might have done some reshoots in early 2021, if I recall correctly. But with despite being away for so long, I'm actually really kind of surprised to hear that some of that stuff is still left in you. Where you're mentioned before, you're repeating some of those lines again. That's actually quite interesting. Because what I was wanting to get into with Adam here next, because after what you just explained here, Kyle, is that for you, Adam, one of the biggest things I noticed right away with your character. In fact, I'm going to say when I saw one still from the movie where I think it was in the parking garage scene where you had the long hair, it was tied back, dressed in black for the most part. Honestly, you look like a badass, quite frankly, but But I saw right away, I was like, okay, so this character, in my opinion, I can just tell from that shot that I saw in that still, that this is meant to be a big, powerful guy. And then obviously you had the scene where you took it off and it's obviously you were in shape. Was that something that was necessary for you to do, that Kyle Harris had asked you, hey, and your character needs to be in good shape because this is what I want out of this character? Or was it a decision that he let you decide whatever was best for you to represent the character physically in that sense?
You know, it's interesting because I think at the time they wanted both of us skinnier.
Okay.
I mean, I think they were both really wanted us to be like lean, like a couple of wolves. You know what I mean?
Okay.
A couple of coyotes. And our boy, our Stetson athletic spokesmodel, Kyle Henry, did shave the locks and lost a bunch of weight. And I was kind of going through some personal stuff, and I wasn't sleeping very much, so my diet was not nearly as intense as it should have been. And so I kind of was wanting to really focus on just adding mass. I wanted to contrast what he was doing. And I give a plug to my boy Josh Clark. There's a cat out here in Shawnee, and he does like metal work. And I messaged him and I said, I want to get a rack put in in the back of my house, my property, that's like a prison workout. And that's what I'm going to do. That's what I'm going to hit. And so it's like a bunch of pull-ups and dips and push-ups and just really just rugged, simple body weight type exercises. And so I hit that really hard for a few months ahead of time. So I was kind of adding muscle while Kyle was dropping LBs and picking up lung cancer. But I mean, like, I think Kyle would probably speak to this. Like, man, I did a lot of physical, a lot, as much, if not more, physical work for 90 feet from home. Like, my natural body is like video game dad bod. I'm like Homer Simpson. I have to get roles to try to maintain some sort of shape. But like, there is something about that. And that's part of the beauty, again, of signing onto a role and committing to it. I mean, when we commit to the, Jake the Snake, God bless him, gets the role. Awesome. He's Jake the Snake, Jake the Snake, Jake the Snake, Jake the Snake, comes in, shoots, leaves, Jake the Snake, Jake the Snake. When we, as indie guys, take a gig, then we're prepping for it for months and months and months, and all the time that I'm out there doing dips or push-ups or pull-ups or whatever, or every cigarette, I'm sure Kyle Henry smoked before. Every time he skipped a protein shake, you are building that character. It's connecting you to where you're wanting to go. And that kind of preparation as an actor, I find, again, because I'm kind of, maybe perhaps because I'm slow, being able to connect with a character physically helps me a lot. Growing out the beard, growing out the hair, putting on some muscle, like, man, it helps you feel like the way you need to feel when you get on screen,
So I'm curious about this here for you now, because I want to stick with you here on this, Adam, because when you had in our last conversation we had, you had said before that you felt like this was by far your best role, the best performance you've ever delivered, and I think it really is one of your best roles, if not the best that I've come across here so far. But looking back at it now, and when you saw the movie too, do you still have more or less the same sentiments, that you feel like what you have been accomplished and seen on the screen, does it still hold up to you, or do you look back at it now and realize that I could have probably done it a little bit better now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Dude, it's interesting to me when you speak to actors and they're like, I can't ever watch myself.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously everybody's got their own process. Who am I to judge?
Yeah.
It's weird for me because I try to, maybe it's because I started in this directing. I pick things apart, and that can be good and bad. But I've watched it, and there are a couple of scenes. I've said it to Kyle Harris. There are a couple of scenes in this film that I'm just, embarrassed by, like it's just painful for me to watch a couple of the moments.
Interesting.
But like, my hope, man, is that I'm even more in love with, or just as I love just as much the next character I play, and that I feel just as powerfully about my experience on that movie. It's hard for me to judge performances of my own, because I'm trying every time. I will say that the experience of this, like, of course, I've got like, when I'm working on Rough Cut with Jason and Kenny and the gang, or Charlie or whatever, like, I love those guys, and they're all fantastic actors. But there was an intensity in regards to this film and this experience that was unlike a lot of that with Rough Cut, where we're making each other laugh, and it's kind of laughing through our tears. With this one, it was in a totally different approach, and I really liked the way that we were. I liked the intensity of it. When I get on Rough Cut with, say, Beard, and he's actually making. If my character laughs, it's me actually laughing because he cracks me up. When we're getting into a scene with Kyle, when I'm in a scene with Kyle Henry in this movie, I mean, at one point, like, we literally did break a wall in the house from pushing each other.
Take one.
Yeah, like it was a problem for continuity. So it's it's the experience, and I'm kind of like Kyle Henry, like, I can't rest too long on the laurels. I'll be failing, I feel, is if you and I are speaking in a year, Robert, or the three of us are together in a year talking about the next project, and I'm still saying, my best performance was out of Exile. You know what I mean? It needs to be the next one, but I'm very, very, very proud of this one. I'm very, very proud of this film. I'm so genuinely impressed with the talent that I was fortunate enough to be surrounded by. Like, it's just, I mean, I say it to Kyle Henry's face. I mean, the guys got everything. And like he reminds me of like young Brad Pitt in terms of electricity. And when you watch him in Seven, and you just want to watch him and see what happens.
Yeah. I agree with you on that. Yeah.
And Kyle Harris, man. I mean, it's my hope that he and I, as well as Henry, are making movies, for the next 20 years or something.
Well, for you, Kyle, do you feel more or less the same sentiments about how, in this case, with how Adam feels about his performance in the movie, where maybe you feel like that this was by far your best work that you've delivered in terms of performances, or do you come from a different standpoint about when you look at yourself, or maybe what you experience on set? This is good, because you talked about one point where it's very rare that you have a moment getting off a set where you feel satisfied, and then you had that with Adam in that one particular scene you referred to earlier. But when you watch the movie and you see how everything played out, I mean, are you looking at yourself and realize, I mean, I hope it doesn't sound cheesy when I say this, but when you watch yourself, do you realize, like, that was incredible? Like, I'm really happy with what I've done here. And I think this is by far my best work that I've done up to that point. Or do you have a little bit more, maybe, where you realize, like, I could have done a little bit better?
I was truly able to, I think I was able to be proud of myself for the first time in regards to film, because it's always a dream. It's always there's a certain aspect of being an actor where it's a fantasy in a way. It's make pretend, and to see all the hard work, the countless hours and stuff. I have a lot of regrets in life, and I really gave my all for this one as much as I could under the circumstances of 2020 and being a father, being a husband and stuff. I gave my all. I got it there, and I guess I'm not at that point where I hope this isn't my best work or anything. I'm proud of myself for this one. I will be. Can y'all still see me? Okay.
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay. I will be, though, very bummed if I don't have the opportunity to work with guys that we equally brought out the best in each other. Man, that's not something I would ever take for granted. I think about it almost every day without thinking about it at the same time. The excitement of knowing the possibilities of working with a guy like Adam, and especially how easy I know we could do it, and the possibilities. I mean, we didn't rehearse one single freaking thing. Just we had the understanding, and to know that we can do that on the next one, or on another one, and possibly a bigger level with bigger opportunities attached to it. It gets that that kind of fantasy back, the unrealistic things that everyone once told you when you were a kid or dropping out of college. Hey, don't do that. Don't put your eggs in that basket. Well, it's kind of found that reinforcement with this role. I'm proud of the work I did with it. I'm proud to work with Adam. And I still got all my eggs in the basket. And so, yeah, just needs a couple more guys with their own baskets to come along, and let's go see what else we can do. And I don't know if that went off topic or
no, that's perfectly fine.
But yeah, I'm happy. I'm satisfied with it.
Well, okay, so here's what I want to lead into next year, and this is the part that I was kind of cautious about how I want to go about it, but I don't want to get into any spoilers, but I'm bringing about the ending here because I want to get you guys' perspective on the ending here without really revealing what it is, but because when I got to the end of the film, that's where I guess the best way I could describe it without really sounding cliche was where I realized that Kyle Harris, in my mind, because I messaged him too afterwards. I said, I think, that you are in the same level as the Michael Manns, the Scorsese of the world, because with what I felt, what I got out of this movie when I got to the end, was I did not expect it, but the way that you had delivered that ending, for it to have that impact on me, I think if it had that on me, probably it's going to have on someone else as well too, if not almost everybody. But I wanted to know, when you guys had read the script, read the ending, what was your initial thought process? And then when you saw the more or less the final cut of the film and seeing it play out, if the sentiment had changed a little bit, if it had more of an impact for you, or maybe if you had a difference in opinion about good ending, but maybe didn't work for me. So I'm just curious about what your thought process was reading the script and to where it is now in seeing the final cut.
You've dropped yourself in a minefield, my friend, of spoilers. Because I have definite feelings about it. How I might reveal those without there was more in terms of the last no, you know what? The original script ended differently.
Okay.
And that's what I'm there for. And I maintain that that's exactly the way that it ended. I think that there's a little kind of a different sort of possibility at the end of this, the film as it is now, and I refuse it.
Fair point. Okay.
yeah, because I mean, like, I think I know why Kyle did that. I understand why he did it. But I'm gonna go with it's ambiguous enough that I can the first draft still holds up, and that's what I think. I don't know if you can read between the lines, but
I can.
that's where it is for me.
Okay. Well, what about for you, Kyle? Do you have any similar sentiments or something completely different for yourself?
I love the story, where it went, especially for my supporting guy. The more attached I got to him throughout the process, the ending, of course, just on my part, I served my purpose properly in my role. But the more I lived the character, I'll forever say that if Saban and Kyle want to make a part 2, there's a opportunity there. They can either close the book and cinematically you'll know what I mean, or they can flip a page and there's still possibilities there with the characters. That's how badass of a job Kyle did with the writing of this story. Is
Interesting.
There's so many unsaid layers, unsaid dynamics, and then
Right.
there's obvious ones that are still worth investing in, such as you spoke of before that. You see this being a 3-hour movie. Well,
Yeah.
there's still so much of these characters that we could have bled, and me with my own dogmatic words that never, I guess, left. Hey, let's flip the page. We could still keep it going, but it's like, no, let's go make another movie now. We're done with that story. It's like, well, fuck you guys. But yeah, maybe it'll be a good thing to break out of the character and stuff. And so in the end, yes, I'm happy with it. No regrets. Yeah.
Okay.
I love that you're here pitching a sequel. Your sequel. I love that that's what's happening here.
Possibilities.
I like the optimism here in the room. Okay, well, so let's. I want to just kind of delve into something with you guys real quick about. I'm trying to see how I could kind of delve into this here because, when I talked to Kyle Harris last year about, his more or less introduction into the business and then how things have kind of picked up along the way for him. Not to imply that, what the opportunities that were given to him were easy for him, but they definitely were, in my opinion, very well deserved. I'm sure you guys would know what I'm talking about here. But in him sharing about the upcoming projects that he's working on right now, when he talks about this one that you guys are working on here together with here, I'm curious about what the experiences you have on Out of Exile. I'm sure that you guys are still very much close. You are very much looking forward to working with each other. But has anything changed along the way in the preparation for this upcoming project you guys are working on right now, where you know that what we did before, was good for that time, but this time around things have changed along the way that I know that process does not work for me anymore, that I'm going to be approaching it differently this around, understanding that I'm removing the fact that you're taking on a whole new project altogether. The characters are different, but maybe the way that you would approach your acting or your preparation for the acting, if you will, again, removing the character that you're playing on here, as far as like what the time where the time the timeline of the story is going to be at, but because all that's going to be different from what I recall seeing the Kyle social media's post. But I'm curious about what has been different for you guys about the preparation for this time around in this coming from production here, working with Kyle Harris, all the other actors working together again. Has something changed along the way that you realize that has made you, from working on Out of Exile, have made you a better actor or person, if you will, that has carried over to this production? I hope that's not a long, convoluted, and elongated question, but I hope you understand where I'm coming from here. And if it is, let me know. I'll hopefully get that fine-tuned a little bit better.
It's hard because I don't want to speak too specifically about any projects. Okay. It's kind of like, the opposite of Candyman. If you say a project too many times, it sort of disappears and then you never hear from it again. But I do think, and even speaking with Kyle Henry about projects, I think this movie, and it's not I've been proud of a lot of things I've been a part of. I'm sure Kyle has too. But it did set a standard that I never want to come down from, in terms of the type of people you work with. Nobody here was playing. Like, nobody showed up on this set to play. Nobody showed up on this set to let me see what it's like to make a film. Everybody came like ready to go. And the cast of this, and a lot of this goes back to Kyle with his emphasis on pre-production, but it also speaks to the gameness of the actors who are willing to show up not getting paid, for weeks in advance, because we want to be the best at what we do. And we want to show up on the day of the shoot and kill it, just kill it, and push each other to be the best that we can be. So, I mean, for me, it's like, I want to take that energy and try to continue to foster it in every set I'm a part of. And the more that, being with that like-mindedness, because everybody does have their own way. Everybody has a process. Every actor has their own process, right. But like, there wasn't, ooh, I better learn my lines real quick, or, oh, sorry, I'm late, guys, I had something else come up. Everybody was showing up ready to go. And we're not going to put out professional grade films or movies or stories unless everybody is operating at that level. Like Kyle and I had a conversation, Harris and I was kind of laughing at the idea that if a good movie actually comes out, it's an accident, because there are so many ways it can screw up. Right. You can have a tremendous script, subpar director, average actors, garbage. You can have a tremendous cast, tremendous director, tremendous script, and a terrible editor. It's going to be garbage. It's like everything has to, it's like you're tripping and falling up the steps, and like you land in a chair with a martini in your hand. It's a complete accident when a movie ends up being good. But I think rolling into whatever else I'm doing with this same level of focus, I mean, like, it's kind of the way I tried to work anyway. But this movie certainly, it was nice working with these guys and gals and people who were just as obsessed about it as I am, or more so. And that's what this movie is. I mean, like, Kyle Harris is a maniac. Kyle Henry is a maniac. Peter Green's a like a maniac. But when you got guys like Wilson Knob, the supporting Haley McFarland. Haley McFarland shows up for 2 days, dude. And like, my scenes with her, we had no time to really meet and bond. I'm using what I'm using to try to get where I need to be, and she's bringing it. And man, like, she had me in tears. Like, the first scene that I have with her, like, she literally had me tearing up. She's there for a couple of days. I was talking about Van Quattro and what he brought. A lot of his stuff got cut, unfortunately, because he was freaking amazing. Amazing. And he gave me advice as an actor that I'll take with me forever. I was telling somebody about it today. So I think just the advice that I would give to other actors is look for passionate people doing things and be a part of that. Like, it's not just don't be the smartest person in the room. If you're the smartest person, get in another room, but also passion. If you're the most passionate person in your room, get in another room, because I promise you, there are more passionate, there are more intelligent, there are more talented actors, there are more, and that's, I really got to benefit from playing with people who, in so many facets of that, were like that. I'm long-winded, but
okay. I think that's the theme of the episode here.
Yeah, that's what I would. Shut up, Medina. No, that's what I would say.
Well, what about for you, Kyle? Anything that you may want to commentate on about that experience from working out of Exile that you feel like has changed your perception on you as a person, as an actor, an artist, if you will, that you realize that has more or less kind of set the standard for yourself, or is it all consistent from what you had prepared before that still carries on up to the upcoming project you have working on here?
Definitely changed me. It from the ground up, even from production assistants to actors to first ADs, sound, writer, director, distribution. It set every single expectation of myself professionally up here. And so I could say since then, it's been a struggle to not expect that at every production I go on to, which that's impossible. I mean, every production is different.
Yeah.
So also at the same time, I've had to educate and kind of remain humble and having the proper expectations for whatever said production I am on. It definitely changed me. Going into this one, I've never worked with cats as talented. I've never worked with quiet kind of actors who can hold a room, such as Adam. I kind of naturally thought you had to do something crazy, to win Oscars, to be noticed, to stick out. And ever since Exile, I'd say something, if not the biggest thing, I've tried to add to myself professionally is I'm trying to display those qualities that Adam beautifully brought. Those quiet, how to the silent mountain, the majestic sights, what I'm saying. Such a unique skill set. There is not many actors that can do it. I mean, Adam has the presence of a Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson in a room right when he walks in. But how he carries himself in a room professionally and on camera, being that big of a force, but how quiet he can control with his dialogue and just characters. So now, ever since the production, I've been trying to learn more method approaches to that type thing. So, which that's pretty damn hard. I've been working very hard at it, crashing and burning with it, but it's been fun. It's been a challenge I've been taking and stuff. And so to also at the same time to educate on the side, I'm hoping that on the next production I can bring those little qualities that I picked up from really studying Adam, and only Adam, not even Christian Bale. You get Christian Bale comments all the freaking time.
Yeah.
Christian Bale's dope, but he's not Adam Hampton. And that's what I'm yeah. So I hope on the next one, I mean, the trust is there too, that because y'all have been doing choreography and y'all have been doing bonding type exercises and stuff like that. My insecure side wants to be there, but my character is not required for those type hangouts and stuff. And so knowing the next time I'm with these guys that trust has always been there and they know I'm going to come prepared. That choreography that I wasn't attending or anything, but that trust that they gave me to come, that makes the next production better. We all established relationships, understanding, hard work, the hard work that's not seen and stuff. We know that that's put in now behind the curtain. And I think that answered your question. Did it? I'm a Pisces. I ramble. So.
I think we're all ramblers here. I think we're all in good company when it comes to that. This is something that, I've been very fortunate to be in a position now where I've said it before that I have been, when I first started doing the show, the initial thing about me doing the show was more or less to kind of just talk with people in the industry. And I'll be frank, it was more, who can I get that has the biggest name? That was the intention. Sure. Who can have the biggest name that I can get that I could talk about the films or whatever else. But then along the way, that slowly had changed into more of finding the most interesting people that I can come across, whose work I connect with. Or maybe if I didn't connect with the work, but I connected with their passion for the work that they're doing. And if I don't understand it, maybe the conversation would spark an interest for me to want to learn more about what they're doing, get the perspective on things. And it was more or less film being kind of the gateway to be able to do that. So along the way, I've been very fortunate to speak with various people in the industry, mostly in the independent side of it, because as I was telling Adam earlier, that when I saw Rough Cut in my preparation to speak with you the first time around, and we ended up talking to everybody else in production. I was literally blown away with the amount of indie work that's come out that no one has seen, and I'm thinking this is far superior than a lot of stuff that I'm seeing in mainstream. No disrespect to all the hard workers in mainstream, they put in the work, but sometimes the numbers are clearly the priority than the actual product in itself. If that makes any sense. So when you look at something like, in this case, like Rough Cut, I was blown away when I've learned, I said before, that there was no money involved, but the quality was superior in so many ways: acting, directing, editing, sound design, all that stuff. It came out beautiful, and you had a lot of scope with it as well too. Where I think a lot of indie filmmakers try to keep everything really just tight, and I always figure that's the biggest mistake you can make especially if you have opportunity to expand on him. But I think that comes from an experience. But with that being said, though, I've been fortunate enough to speak with various other people that have done work that has blown me away, that has left a major impact on me. So because of the people that I've come across here, such as yourself, Adam, that have made recommendations, talk to this person. If I have been impressed and been very impacted by your work and my conversation with you, everything from that point on, I trust that if you're saying this is good or worth the time, I'm listening to it, because you have shown me that you've been able, not that you have to impress, because that's not what I'm getting at here, but you've shown that the choices that you've made and the people you involved with here have great qualities about them, that for you to be able to recommend them has value behind it. So when I talked to Kyle Harris about Out of Exile and then the various things he's done, and learned a lot about him as a person in my preparation with him, and seeing the stuff he's done after the fact as well, including Out of Exile, that same impact that I had with Rough Cut and this other short film that came across, Frog, 90 Feet From Home, like indie work that left me so taken aback that this stuff is incredible, that this is next level stuff that no one's ever heard about, that needs to be put out there in the forefront, because the things that I've come across that is out there needs to be discovered. And I'm hoping that I have the opportunity to be able to speak with more filmmakers and actors such as yourselves that have done something that's so incredible, that I hope I have a platform that's large enough that me bringing some light to it would hopefully bring more awareness, and then in turn bring more opportunities. Not for the fame and glory, because I'm not into all that. I'm really more into about opportunities, because if Exile brings you guys more opportunity to work on bigger and better projects, to expand on your acting arsenals and directing arsenal, whatever the case may be, then that's what I want to see. Because if you, Adam, who being a great director and writer, if you have the opportunity for someone to say, I've heard you directed before, what have you directed? And you show them Rough Cut and say, well, we can fund your next project now. How much money do you need? That's what I hope would happen, that you have a script that's written and you're ready to go to get the ball rolling. And more the same for you, Kyle, as well. So I feel like that Out of Exile for me was that film that, the little engine that apparently a lot of people have also caught on from more or less the industry side, that picked up on that has been able to kind of get a lot of other things going for Kyle Harris and everyone else involved with this project. So I have high hopes for this movie, and I truly, truly mean when I say this here. I think this is the film, if everything goes well, which I believe it will, that when people have a look at it, that the first thing they're going to notice is that, yes, it's a great film, but the quality is there as well, because the actors were good, the writing was good, their directing was fantastic. And the last thing they're probably going to ask is, how much did it cost and how much time do you have? Because I think that's the part they're going to least think about, because they're going to be more impressed with the work that was presented to them, that's going to overtake their thoughts, rather than, well, how much did it cost to make the movie? That should be the last thing in their mind. And that movie left that impression on me, where I never came close to thinking about that until I learned about it after the fact. So with that being said, I think that, Out of Exile is going to be that film that I hope changes everything for you guys for the better, in granting you more opportunities, because I think that the film is that good where if you don't like it, you probably had your eyes shut. It's the way I look at it. It is, maybe I'm being a little biased, but I do think the movie's that good. So if there's anything you guys want to say in closing on each of your end that you would like to more or less say about the film, or anything else that people can anticipate down the pipeline that you are able to more or less commentate on, that we can be on the lookouts here for, so before we can go ahead and close out. So whoever wants to take the floor here.
I'll go first because Adam's good at closing these things out.
Go for it.
First off, let Out of Exile be Adam and mine's pitch to play Batman and Robin. Because obviously they haven't really decided on a combo yet, or committed to one in particular, and Mr. Hampton could easily kill it as Bruce Wayne. So, no, all jokes aside, I have a day job. I have wife, 2 kids, one on the way. I'm a normal guy playing with dreams every single day. And just if there's any actors out there, it literally, you can. This is it. What I find as internal success in my moment where I think I'll find that this is not it. But it's definitely an unexpected, abrupt opportunity that popped up out of nowhere. And I dug my teeth into it. And if there's anybody else looking for that opportunity to pop up, maybe that big step forward, they show up out of nowhere, even in the worst of times and stuff. And if you look at the people you're working with, and you do it right, that next big step is just, seriously, it could just be a year away. Or tomorrow's always a day away. So just, that's my closing side of things outside of Batman and Robin. Tomorrow's just a day away. And so, yeah, get to writing your scripts, get to rehearsing, get to doing whatever. It's the moments. They'll be there for you.
All right, Adam, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I can't follow that level of optimism. What I can tell you is that guy believes what he's saying. Like, it's a real beauty to be able to sit here with you, Robert. It's an honor, Kyle, of course, to be able to talk with you about something that both of us poured so much love into, and into a project that so many people poured so much love and work and dedication to. I'm very appreciative. I'll always be appreciative, Kyle Harris, for introducing me to Gabe, and for the friends that I've got from this movie, from guys like Kyle, from Wilson, from Will. It was a beautiful experience, and if anybody watches the movie and they enjoy it, it was made with love. I hope it's watched with love, and I'm excited to see what happens with it.
All right. So on that note, I want to say thank you to you both. This was an honor for me to speak with you all. And again, Adam, I was looking forward to chatting with you again. And the fact that you had recommended to bring Kyle Henry in the picture as well, to discuss about this as well, I appreciate that. And Kyle, thank you so much for giving me your time as well, because this was a lot of fun. It's something that I'm not used to doing, to focus solely on one subject matter. If you will, I kind of like to go all over the place. But this definitely was something that was warranted, where I felt like that was necessary, because I really do love this movie. I think this is by far one of the best way to start off the year when it comes to films that people will be introduced to this year. So I hope that whatever had impact, how the film impacted on me, will impact other people as well. So to you guys, this is me giving you flowers, and until next time, hopefully we get to do this again and pick up from where we last left off. So cheers to you both.
Thank you, brother.
Thanks. Yeah, thank you. It was a pleasure, man.